Hi, and welcome to another episode of Badger Nerdworks Presents We Watched a Movie. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Colin.
And today we watched the early 1990s movie, Freaked. It was actually not my first time seeing this movie, but I completely forgotten I had seen this movie.
I saw it this time only, really. I haven't seen it before. I was kind of surprised that this was a film by the guys with Bill and Ted.
almost unnoticeable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird.
It's a weird kind of follow-up. It kind of falls inside the same feeling and vibe as Bill and Ted in that it's a silly, goofy sci-fi movie, but without all the charm and quality
They
of Bill and
tried
Ted.
to be comedic, but it comes off... Most of the jokes fall flat. There are a few good ones in there, but a lot of the jokes just don't work out.
No, a lot of the comedy is pretty flat, and you're just supposed to find it funny. There's a lot of, visual jokes that, they don't point to too much, but you're just supposed to find funny. First of all, let's establish what is. Randy Quaid plays an evil hillbilly scientist who has a machine that creates mutagen out of, It's a fertilizer.
42?
Yeah, it's it doesn't matter, but it's like a fertilizer that the main character, who's a movie star, is supposed to be promoting. And this guy's taking it and turning it into mutagen, and he collects the dude and rubs it on him and turns them into freaks. So he has a collection of weird freaks.
Yeah.
And almost all of them are plays on words
The worm is a professor, so I think he's a bookworm.
Yeah, he's a bookworm. There's a cowboy who's a man who's a cow, but gives you cowboy chunks of wisdom. The frogman is a French guy in a diving suit.
I love that he's just a French guy in a diving suit.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with him.
Yeah, there's a guy who's just a sock puppet for a head, and then at some point in the movie...
I love the reveal on that.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
He gives a performance in the Freak Show where he's playing a piano?
I think he's playing bells.
He's playing bells, yeah. And he falls over and trips and his sock comes off and he has a hand for a head. And everyone in the audience goes, "He's a faker. He doesn't have a sock for a head," and starts throwing stuff at him.
Yeah, so he's got the just big hand there where his head should be.
That's a good one. There are a few good jokes.
No, and it does have some pretty funny visual stuff going for it. It is a very, it's a very stylized movie. They did a lot of cool stuff. It's kind of the end of stop motion claymation. It was very much of that era. I'm sure
it did have a few good nods to that during the transformation sequence of main guy's buddy and feminist girl, which is just the most cut out feminist girl model.
Well, and they're not supposed to be fleshed out characters. Everyone is super superficial. These characters are not well fleshed out with background. No, they're here to be turned into
a caricature.
A caricature.
It's
completely.
Feminist girl who's I hate men, and weird female objectifying playboy guy who's women, yeah.
Yeah, and they get fused into one person, so they're constantly at odds with one another, doing the Three Stooges bits, and smacking each other and poking each other in the eyes. In concept, that's pretty funny.
In concept.
Yeah. I like the concepts more than I actually like the movie. There's a bunch of really weird images that's hard to get out of your head, but then I think I'll quickly forget, because I quickly forgot them. I know I've seen this, the Rastafari.
All right, they were Rastafaris.
Yeah. The guards for this camp where the bad guy is enslaving all these freaks is patrolled by these two walking eyeballs with machine guns that are Rastafari, and they have the
Rastafarian hat, and one of them's smoking a doobie while he shoots his gun.
Yeah, and they just be around.
They're just eyeballs, which is weird.
Yeah, they're just eyeballs, and they speak very the whole thing is a little degrading, really. In
very
every level,
stereotypes.
Yeah,
everywhere.
they just run into stereotypes. They're
and they're this character is a stereotype, and that's what they are.
Yeah. Mr. T's in it, very much so. The stereotype, he shows up.
Mr. T was delightful.
Yeah, he's delightful in it. The character's a little insensitive. Like, he shows up and they're all telling their backstory, and he shows up as a trucker. And he gets down, he's like, when I came here, I was very confused, and I didn't know who I was, and I was angry. And then, like...
The guy goes, hey, you would be great without a penis.
Yeah, Randy Quaid's just like, you'd be so
And he
happy
gets
without a penis.
angry, and then he goes, but you can keep the beard, and he's like, yeah.
So as long as he loses the beard, has the beard, loses the penis, he's fine.
I love
so,
that
like,
his costume as the bearded lady is just Mr. T in a dress.
right, it's just
There's
Mr.
no
P in a
change.
dress. Yeah, that's all they... But no, it has a few stuff in that where you're like, this really isn't PC anymore. Like, I think a lot of those things would have gotten cut
yeah.
if this was made in the modern era. Here's the thing. I don't think they would have made this in the modern era. This is of a specific kind of cheese
there are
that could have only occurred in the early
jokes and
90s.
stuff that just not cool anymore. Like, the little kid's a big fan of the main actor guy, and every time they run into him, they just beat him up, and
Yeah, they're
they
very
throw him
abusive
out
to
of
that
a
child.
plane at one point.
Yeah, the plane scenes, like, the kid is just able to sneak onto the plane, totally would never happen anymore, and, like, there's like a
I
visual
think a
gag where one of the
stewardess puts a
stewardess takes
bomb.
a bomb from one of the people and puts it up in the storage compartment, and then as, like, they show the, like, plane arriving, it blows up, and then it cuts to our two, like, heroes, and they're, like, watching, like, good thing that wasn't our plane. And
And
you're like,
they just walk away.
damn! You could not do that anymore
This
and
is
have it be
so
like,
made before 9/11.
yeah, you're
so
like,
before 9/11.
different time, different place, different sensibilities.
Probably around the time of, like, the Airplane movie.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
where you
Well,
can
no,
make a
it
bunch of
was
jokes.
long after Airplane, but yeah, and along
When you
that
could still
vein.
make those jokes.
Right, well, when airplanes were still, like, just a thing that people got on and flew places, and it wasn't, like,
No
whole
TSA
issue.
at all.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah, take your gun, whatever else you want.
Well, and the movie very much is like, they're evil corporations who want to pollute the planet, and it's very like 90s mutants, like even it's called Freaked, but they're not really born that way, they're mutated into it, so really
Yeah.
it's more mutants than it is
True.
freaks. I mean, I guess technically you could consider them freaked, because they became
Right, that's why
that.
it's in past tense.
Right, because it was something that
they have
occurred to
become
them.
freaked.
Yeah, but I think a lot of stuff was cool in that it looked of the time era. Like, in specific, I'm thinking to, like, the computer program that, like,
Yeah.
he uses to make the freaks. Like,
Very grungy.
yeah, it's very grungy. It's very, like, NES graphics. His mouse is actually a mouse. Like, it's a mouse that he
That's
clicks
a good
on.
visual gag.
Yeah, it's a good visual
And
gag.
for the mutagen, when they're trying to figure out like how to make their own mutant, there's a player select screen that's just all of the mutated guys.
Yeah. It's like clearly Windows is new. They have like the pull down bars where they're like, how messed up do you want them? Like a little freaked, real freaked Michael Jackson. Like, they're like, a joke that lands in the time period. They're like, that's what that was about. Yeah.
And even with the effects, like there are some good call outs like to old claymation and stuff.
Yeah. They have that Gumby and Pokey one where like,
And the giant troll guy.
yeah, the giant troll. God, masturbating Gumby is just one of those images you're never gonna get out of your head.
Yeah, that's gonna be with me forever now.
Pokey's just watching. He's like staring right at it. It's very inappropriate. But
Amazing that only lasts like 2 seconds.
yeah, that only lasts for a few seconds, but you won't forget it. You'll catch it. You'll be like, "That's something you're not losing. You're
Nope.
taking that away from this movie." But no, and I thought that was one of the things you can say for it. It was a high point of costuming. Like, I mean, they were all about visual effects. Were very physical in this. The costuming
good
of the main
practical
character.
effects.
Yeah, he looks real good. He has this disgusting little wart on his head that keeps gushing goo out of it, and like it
At one
squirts
point,
it
it squirts out of his hand.
Yeah,
too.
he's got a couple of them, like these pustules that'll like,
He's mutated
Ooh.
to look really ugly. Like
yeah, real horrible.
there's a terrible gag where everyone just projectile vomits for like 2 minutes when
The,
they
the,
first
the
see
hippie
him.
girl is trying to say that like the internal beauty is like where it's really
It
at,
looks
so it
don't
doesn't matter. And then like
matter.
she gets like, you know, a few sentences into it, she just loses it and starts vomiting for the next minute, and they just hold on it. And it's fair to say that they kind of have to. I mean, they got like an hour 15, I think, is what we saw, and then
They
like,
stretched that movie as far as they could.
yeah, they could not take that movie any further than
That movie
they
needs
had.
like half an hour, and they stretched it as far as they can without being annoying.
Yeah. So, like, even though it's kind of short, you're glad it is, and you're glad it's coming to an end when it does. The end credits are worth watching. It's fair to say both the opening credits and the end credits are both worth watching.
But the opening credits might hurt you if you have audiovisual seizures.
Yeah, things they did not care about in the early 90s. If we kill you with seizures. Yeah, it's very like early MTV, flashy.
Flashing images, constantly changing background.
Yeah, like kind of claymation faces of all the stars, which it's fair to say this movie has a ton of cameos.
It is well
It is
animated.
just jam-packed with people you will recognize from actually good movies.
If you can recognize them from their suits. Like, Wolfman apparently was Keanu Reeves, and I had to be told that.
That's
I was
true.
like, whoa,
Brooke
he
Shields.
is.
Brooke Shields, you can totally tell. And towards the end of the movie, Randy Quaid gets thrown into like a vat, and he gets turned into Brooke Shields, and then the FBI wastes her, and then they go to like the show that they're shooting this, and in theory it's the actor telling
Right.
his story about all this, the whole movie, and he's like, yeah, he looked just like you, except for his horrible fee, and they look at Brooke Shields' fee and like, oh no, it's the bad guy, and she gets up,
And has a
someone else,
machete.
yeah, and like someone else wastes her, and they're like, oh, thank goodness you came in and wasted her, and then like,
They have
like,
their
they
feel-good
have a
moment, and then she pops up again.
and another character
guy
pops out
wastes him.
and blows her away. So, like, in, like, the last 4 minutes of this movie, they shoot Brooke Shields 3 times.
It must have been like 6 bullets at least.
Oh, no. I mean, in 3 separate occasions,
Yes.
they shoot her a plethora of times.
In the last 5 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the more fun cameos. She has
And
a
a
real good sense
great
of humor
ending
about it.
stinger, just as it freeze frames at the end, she pops up again behind him with the machete.
Yeah.
Just won't stay
She also
down.
says, Return to Blue Lagoon sucks. He's like, they're playing Return to Blue Lagoon on the plane. She's like, that movie sucks.
But if we can take away one good lesson from this movie, it's that milkmen, if you have 13 of them on the same route, you're gonna get into knife fights.
That is a weird note to end on, but this is a weird movie to watch. And if you want to understand that, it'll make sense. Like
It
and,
will.
And it's worth a one-time pass. It's one of those things. It's not genius. It's not brilliant. It's not bringing anything new to the table, but it provides you with a little over an hour of entertainment.
It's a good popcorn flick.
It is. It is. Thanks for watching another episode of Badger Nerdworks Presents We Watched a Movie. I'm Brandon.
I'm Colin.
Be sure to like, watch, and subscribe. You can also hit that bell icon for announcements as to when more videos are coming up. Thanks for coming and watching.